You know that feeling you're constantly hunting for a charger? Just wishing your phone battery would, well, last. It really looks like Oppo is aiming high, maybe even for the battery life holy grail, with this upcoming Find X9 Ultra. Welcome to the deep dive. You've given us a whole stack of sources, articles, notes, research bits, and our job. It's pretty simple. Cut through all the noise, find the really important stuff, and hopefully give you those aha moments, especially when, the headlines start sounding almost too good to be true. So today, we're properly digging into all the rumors swirling around the Oppo Find X9 Ultra. And the thing that's caught everyone's eye, it is a massive number, is this rumored 7,000 mAh battery capacity. You see that figure everywhere. Okay, let's unpack this then. Because that 7,000 mAh, it's exciting, sure, but there's actually a really fascinating story behind it.
There certainly is. Yeah, that single 7,000 millihar number, it kind of hints at something much more sophisticated going on with the engineering at Oppo. We really need to clarify the difference, the crucial difference, between what's called rated and typical battery capacity. And then we can get into how Oppo is using some pretty advanced engineering, specifically a dual cell setup, to make a battery that big, not just possible, but also, work efficiently with their fast charging. It's all about breaking those old trade-offs.
Right, because it's not just about the battery, is it? There's a whole lot more packed in here. We're going to explore the whole rumored package, this groundbreaking camera system they're talking about, the processor, and even how Oppo's thinking strategically about where this fits in the market. This isn't just another phone launch. It feels like they're positioning it as a serious contender for, 2026.
Right.
So if you want the shortcut to understanding this potential game changer, well, you're in the right place.
Okay, so let's start with that big number, the 7,000 milliamp battery. Looking through our sources, the early leaks, especially from some, pretty credible tipsters, they initially tied that huge capacity to other phones in the series, specifically the Oppo Find X9 Plus. Some reports even speculated higher, maybe 7,500 milliamp for the Pro model.
Okay. And that's where it starts getting a bit confusing, right? Because then different numbers started popping up for the Ultra model itself, seemingly contradicting those earlier reports. How do we square those figures for the X9 Ultra specifically?
Well, the latest leaks, the ones that seem more technically specific, they really bring some clarity. For the Find X9 Ultra, what we're actually looking at is a dual-cell battery, and it has a precise rated capacity of 6,800 milliamp. And that model number, the Oppo BLPD09, that's important. It's an internal code, the kind you see in certification filings. It suggests this isn't just guesswork. It's likely a verified specification.
Okay, so 6,800 millihar rated.
Exactly. And the 7,000 millicar figure that you see everywhere, that's the typical capacity, or you could call it the marketed capacity. It's pretty standard in the industry for the number on the box to be slightly higher than the guaranteed minimum. So Oppo is basically guaranteeing a massive 6,800 millihar while still getting to use that more impressive 7,000 millar number for marketing. It's kind of transparency meets marketing.
Got it. So it's not a myth, just
Yeah.
about understanding the terms. Typical is the nice round number for the ads. Rated is the minimum guarantee. Okay. But what about those other numbers we saw? Some much lower ones like 6,100 millar or even 5,000 millar being reported for the Ultra.
Yeah, those conflicting reports. The 6,100 millipost one likely refers to the previous model, the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. That makes sense contextually. And the 5,000 millipo figure, that often came bundled with other specs that didn't quite line up, like maybe a triple camera or an older chip. It seems those came from less reliable sources, possibly mixing up details from, earlier models or maybe even different phones in the X9 series entirely. Actually, all this varied reporting, even the slightly confusing bits, it might point towards Oppo being quite deliberate with segmenting the market.
Ah, right. So it sounds like maybe the Find X9 Plus is being aimed squarely at people who just want raw, maximum battery life above all else, whereas the Find X9 Ultra, well, the battery is still huge and a key feature, but maybe it's more about enabling that top-tier camera and performance.
Precisely. That seems to be the strategy. Now, fitting a 7,000 milliamp battery, even the typical capacity alongside that super fast 100W wired and 50W wireless charging into what they're calling a relatively slim chassis, well, that's not simple. This is where the advanced engineering really comes into play, especially that dual cell battery system. Historically, phones mostly used a single battery cell. It's simpler, cheaper, but it creates a bottleneck if you want both high capacity and really high power delivery, like for super fast charging.
And that's where splitting it into two cells changes things. How does that break the bottleneck?
Yeah, think of the single cell like a narrow pipe for power. It gets congested easily if you try to push too much through or store too much. Oppo's dual cell system is more like having two pipes. Without getting too technical, the key takeaway is it lets them manage the load better. They can handle both high voltage, which the components need, and high current for the fast charging, without the same kind of overheating problems you get with single cells pushing their limits. The charging current gets split between the two cells, see, so each one handles less stress, generates less heat. That's really important for safety and also for the battery's lifespan.
That makes total sense. So you need both high voltage for power and high current for speed without melting the phone. And that L-shaped battery design we read about, is that part of the solution?
That seems to be the most likely approach for the Ultra. Yes, it's the most advanced solution. This L shape isn't just a quirky design choice, it's actually really clever engineering. Think about how tightly packed everything is inside a phone. An L-shaped battery can physically wrap around other components like the camera module or the motherboard. It uses the internal space much more efficiently. And crucially, it allows for those separate pathways we talked about, high voltage, high current. It's a spatial and an electrical solution rolled into one. This is how Oppo can likely cram in that huge capacity, deliver the 100W wired and 50W wireless charging, getting it juiced up in maybe just 30 minutes, and keep the phone relatively slim. It basically breaks that old compromise. You used to have to choose between a big battery, fast charging, or a thin phone. Now maybe you can have all three.
That really does sound like solving a major engineering puzzle. Okay, and it feels like this push for innovation goes way beyond just power, right? What else makes the Find X9 Ultra look like a true, no-compromise flagship device?
Absolutely. If we connect the dots from various reports, the Find X9 Ultra is consistently tipped to use the very next Qualcomm chip, the Snapdragon 8 Elite 2. The model number SM8850 keeps popping up, and that's a key difference because the other models, the standard X9 and the X9 Pro, they're rumored to be using MediaTek's Dimensity 9500. So the Elite 2 chip really sets the Ultra apart in terms of potential performance. Think AI, gaming, efficiency boosts.
Okay, top-tier chip.
Mhm.
And the camera. Oppo's always making noise about its cameras. What's the story there? What's special?
The camera system might be the most, well, revolutionary part based on the rumors. It's expected to be a quad camera setup, again co-developed with Hasselblad, but the main sensor, that's tipped to be a huge 200 megapixel camera, which is interesting because it suggests they might be moving away from the 1-inch sensor size seen in predecessors, maybe focusing on resolution and processing. The really unique part, it's expected to have a dual-periscope telephoto system.
Whoa, hold on. A dual periscope. That sounds intense. What does it actually mean for someone taking photos, like practically speaking?
It means incredible flexibility. Imagine a one periscope lens designed for maybe super sharp macro shots, getting incredibly close details. Then you switch to the other periscope, the super periscope, and that one gives you something like 10x optical zoom. So you could be capturing tiny details 1 second, and the next pulling in subjects from really far away, all supposedly with high clarity. It's not just about more zoom, it sounds like it's about giving you pro-level tools for wildly different situations, all in one phone.
That does sound genuinely versatile. Okay, now, the display, there was a bit of confusion there for a minute, wasn't there? Some rumor about a downgrade that got shot down quickly.
That's right. Most reports point towards a really nice display, maybe 6.8 inches, flat OLED, 2K plus resolution, 120 hertz refresh rate. Standard flagship stuff, but good stuff. But then one well-known leaker, Digital Chat Station, suggested a possible downgrade to a 1.5K resolution panel. But almost immediately, an Oppo executive reportedly came out and publicly quashed that rumor. That quick public denial is pretty telling. It shows Oppo is really sensitive about any perception of downgrading its top-tier phone. So yeah, it strongly suggests the final Find X9 Ultra will indeed have that sharp 2K plus display.
Okay, so no cutting corners on the screen either.
Yeah.
And speaking of strategy, the way they're launching the Find X9 series seems quite deliberate, doesn't it? Not dropping everything at once.
Yeah, it's a really smart phased release strategy. We even have official confirmation on this from one of Oppo's product managers, Zhuyi Bao. He laid out the timeline. The standard Find X9 and the Find X9 Pro are expected late in 2025. I think maybe October. But the Find X9 Ultra, that's planned for later, in the first half of 2026.
That's quite a delay for their absolute top model. What's the thinking behind making people wait for the Ultra?
It's clever market timing, really. Staggering it like this lets the Ultra be potentially the first phone to market with some of that brand new tech, like the Snapdragon 8 Elite 2 chip we mentioned. That chip is expected later than the MediaTek one in the other models. Plus, this extra time gives Oppo breathing room for, as they put it, camera system optimization and software refinement, making sure everything is perfectly tuned. It lets them really position the Ultra as the absolute pinnacle, justifying a higher price. And it sets it up perfectly to compete directly against the next wave of flagships, like Samsung's Galaxy S26 series or the Xiaomi 16 Ultra whenever those arrive in 2026. It's smart positioning.
Okay, wow. Let's try and wrap our heads around everything we've just dug into about this Oppo Find X9 Ultra. So first, that big battery number. It's looking like 7,000 mAh typical capacity, but the key spec is the 6,800 mAh rated capacity. And the magic behind it is that Oppo BLPD09 dual cell battery tech. It's what enables the crazy fast 100W wired and 50W wireless charging, potentially a full charge in around 30 minutes while still keeping the phone fairly slim. Remember that clever L-shaped battery design?
Yeah.
Tackling those old trade-offs?
Mhm.
Capacity, speed, heat, size. It's smart engineering.
Exactly. And it's definitely not just about the battery. This Find X9 Ultra is shaping up as a proper, no-compromise device, rumored to have that next-gen Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite 2 chip, the SM8850, for top-tier performance. Then there's that camera system, sounds potentially revolutionary. A quad-camera setup with Hasselblad tuning, a massive 200MP main sensor, and that unique dual-periscope system. One maybe 200MP for incredible macro, the other a 50MP super periscope for possibly 10x optical zoom, really pushing mobile photography. And yes, expect that high-res 2K plus OLED display, not the rumored 1.5K downgrade.
Right. And finally, that launch strategy is crucial. It's a smart, phased release. The Ultra is coming in the first half of 2026, deliberately after the X9 and X9 Pro land in late 2025. This gives Oppo time to perfect it, integrate the absolute latest components like that new Snapdragon chip, and refine the camera software. It ensures the Ultra really earns its name.
So what's the bottom line here for you? Well, if you're thinking about your next phone, understanding these details like typical versus rated battery or why the Ultra is coming later helps you make a smarter choice. If you want the absolute best that Oppo has to offer, particularly in camera performance and raw power, the Find X9 Ultra looks like the one you'll want to wait for in 2026.
Yeah, and for anyone watching the industry, this whole Find X9 series rollout is really like a case study in smart product strategy. You can see how Oppo is carefully segmenting things, maybe the Find X9 Plus for pure battery endurance fans, and then the Ultra aimed squarely at the pro photo and performance crowd. And by timing the Ultra launch carefully, they ensure it lands with the newest tech, ready to go head-to-head with rivals like the next big Samsung Galaxy S or Xiaomi Ultra. It's a really calculated move.
Which leads to maybe a final thought to chew on. Considering all the sophisticated engineering we're seeing in the Find X9 Ultra, the dual-cell L-shaped battery, the dual-periscope camera, and that strategic delay in its launch, what do you think is the next major engineering trade-off that phone makers will try to conquer? And maybe more interestingly, how might they use similar kinds of multi-component or clever integration solutions, like we're seeing here with the battery, to solve it? It makes you think about where mobile tech is heading beyond just the specs of one phone.